Spark is especially suited for things like natural language processing and image processing, computer vision and the like. Spark is powering the data engineering, the data science part of Microsoft Fabric. I remember in Spark cluster we're working together. It's like a chain, all right? So each of the components can be called a node, and this can either be the driver or the executor. You want to do things programmatically, you want to do your data loading, data extraction. A lot of us are very familiar with code, and now the barrier is even getting reduced further. You don't have to even understand or learn Spark from beginning to end to use Spark right now. Good morning, everyone. I'm sure that was a very beautiful session. I learned a lot on optimizing Power BI reports, your data sets, and making it run faster. You will not know the value of what we just went through until you start building for enterprise scale reports or enterprise scale applications. It's very easy to overlook some of these things when you are just building with CSV files, Excel, and the likes. But when you start building with millions and millions of rows, all of these things come into you. So thank you very much for taking us through that. So today we are going to go through introduction to Apache Spark in Microsoft Fabric, and we are of course going to ingest data into Microsoft Fabric as well. This is a very big, this is a lot to congest into 1 hour, so you are just going to bear with me. I'll try and make it worth your while and make it as useful as possible. We're going to be talking about what exactly is Apache Spark, right? Why has Microsoft or the whole world going towards Apache Spark for big data, right? We're going to be talking about what exactly are some of the buzzwords and the key components of when we talk about Spark. And we're also now going to narrow it down to Microsoft Fabric and working, of course, with Apache Spark in Microsoft Fabric. So let's just quickly move ahead. We don't have so much time. So the very first thing is, why does Spark really even exist? Why do we use Spark? So Spark exists, of course, to clean, to transform and analyze and make predictions on big data. Emphasis on big data. All right. We can use so many other solutions out there to analyze, to clean, and transform data. But the choice solution to working with big data is actually Spark, because it's lightning fast, and then we'll talk about some of the features and functionalities as we move forward. Spark is especially suited for things like natural language processing and image processing, computer vision and the likes. So how does Spark work? Spark essentially splits your big data into smaller partitions and stores it in memory across many physical or virtual servers. So it's different from when you're working with, say you're analyzing your data set, for example, you're working with maybe one physical server or one virtual server somewhere. This impacts the level of how, the speed with which you're able to analyze big data. What Spark does is to distribute all of these things across many physical or virtual servers and make all of these things run in parallel so that you can get lightning fast results. And that is why it is the choice for when we're working with big data. Okay, so Spark performs, so it says Spark splits your data into smaller partitions and stores it in memory across many physical or virtual servers. Spark performs computation on each partition in parallel. So all of these is divided into partitions and perform computation on all of these things in parallel, making it a lot faster. Now, the next question is, why has Microsoft built their end-to-end data analytics platform around it? In fact, Microsoft used to say the Fabric is the something for in the era of AI, yes, right? So why has Microsoft built their end-to-end analytics platform around Spark, all right? Because this Spark is actually what is powering the data engineering and the data science part of Fabric. So the data world has converged around Spark. It is used by thousands of companies, including 80% of Fortune 500 companies. There used to be Hadoop, there used to be several other solutions to manage big data, but Spark is actually like maybe one of the leading technologies to work. And of course, you can't fight against where the world is heading. So best to consolidate and use the choice solution that is generally and widely acceptable around the world. Spark is relatively simple to learn and is modular, so we are going to see in the next few slides. We are all familiar with this already. This is essentially, I think this thing changes many times. It has changed. So this is like the the old. But anyways, Spark is powering the data engineering, the data science part of Microsoft Fabric. I even think I read somewhere that even your data factory is built on Spark, right? So when you do all your drag and drop, your low code, these are being translated into Spark code and run in the back end, all right? So there's a lot of synergy between Spark and Microsoft Fabric. That's the point I'm trying to establish. How does Spark work under the hood? This is just a very terrible diagram, but just use it like that. So you have a Fabric notebook. You're writing your lovely code in your Fabric. This starts, of course, what we call a Spark session. Now, and this is being translated into a Spark cluster manager that is managing all the different, remember we said physical virtual servers at the back end that are called nodes, right? And all of this task or this job is translated into or transmitted into all of these nodes and run in parallel. So that each of these things are performing this computation and they're sending back the result, thereby making it fast to work with. Now, I've said some things, and again, I'm a very big fan of breaking complex things down. So what I'm trying to do is let's break down some of the Spark buzzwords, because even if you're not, like I said, we are not going to decongest everything about Spark in this session, but let's take something away that we can then build on. What are some of the buzzwords you come across when you're dealing with Spark or when engineers are talking about it, and how can you relate to some of these things? Number one, we're talking about data frame. We hear data frame a lot. Spark data frame, standard data frame. What are the data frame? A data frame is simply a distributed tables with rows and columns, like similar to your Excel and an SQL table. Right? So when you hear data frame, it's not one big word that you cannot relate to. It's simply a distributed table with rows and columns that you're familiar with. Your Excel table, your SQL table, and the likes. When we hear about Spark actions, what actions in Spark, what are we talking about? These are operations that trigger Spark to actually run. So when you perform an action, you're actually triggering an operations, all right? So whether this is a count, whether this is a collect and aggregate, whatever action you're performing or operation you're performing, that is called an action. When we hear Spark session, you hear Spark session a lot. By the way, I'm going to share this slide. So this is something I'll share it with our Amiable organizer, so maybe you can drop it in the group. So Spark session, this is the main entry point to Spark features. It's like your dashboard or control panel of where everything gets to happen. Then in a Spark session, or in a Spark, in a Spark session, you have something called the executor, the driver, and the job itself. What is the executor? So this is a worker that processes data and runs tasks on each machine. So we have the driver and you have the executor. The driver is like, let's call it the master program that manages the whole job and coordinates the worker. So you have the driver and then, of course, the executor, maybe we'll call them the workers, right? What is a Spark job? When you say around a Spark job or the Spark job is running, what does that mean? A job is like a complete execution that is triggered by an action, all right? And it's made of smaller parts in stages. So a job is a complete execution. You're running so many things at the same time. A job is that thing you're doing. A stage is a group of tasks that can run in parallel. These are steps in a job. And then you have a task. Again, I cannot be really good. I just wanted to get familiar with this. A task is like the smallest unit of work that is sent to an executor. Okay? To continue, partition. When we say partition, we're partitioning our data set. What does it mean? We're dividing our data into chunks that can be processed in parallel in different nodes, all right? So when you say you partition your data, you have a billion rows or 10 billion rows of data, for example, and you want to write a maybe aggregate, or you want to you want to return something. You're not going to, the code is not going to run on that 10 billion rows at the same time. You're going to split this into partitions, run them in parallel, and then aggregate the result, all right? So that's essentially what a partition means. Spark SQL, again, we're familiar with this. This is like a syntax. So it lets you query your structured data in Spark using SQL language, all right? So you're familiar with SQL, you want to use Spark, you can have the best of both worlds. What is a Spark cluster? It's a group of machines that are working together to run a Spark job as one system. So multiple nodes coming together in one cluster together, all right? Multiple machines, right? Spark cluster. Now a Spark pool. You hear Spark pool, Spark pool. I think the first time I came across this was in Azure Synapse. So a Spark pool is a managed Spark environment, like in Azure Synapse, with pre-configured compute settings. You have something similar to this in Microsoft Fabric as well. If you are doing this on your own, maybe you're using like the open source technology, and you have to worry about all of these things. You create your pool and all of these things, you set it up. But because we are working with a controlled environment like Fabric, like Synapse, there's a pool that is created for us with compute resources and compute settings. You just go there and maybe you tweak one or two things and it's easy to. It's very easy to. So I think where the world is going is you don't want to get bothered with maybe all of these technologies behind the hood. They just want you to go in, do what you need to do, and get the job done. But under the hood, these are the things that are really working under it. What is a node? A node is simply a single machine, either physical or virtual, in a Spark cluster. Remember, a Spark cluster, we're working together. It's like a chain, all right? So each of the components can be called a node, and this can either be the driver or the executor. When we say compute in a Spark cluster or in a Spark, what do we mean? This is the resource, all right? The CPU, the memory that is used to run Spark exercises or Spark tasks. Then the final one, auto-scale. Auto-scale simply means that you can automatically adjust to the number of, compute resources based on workload. I don't know if you all know that even if you create a workspace, you can change the settings to auto-scale. If you have more demand or more workload, it scales up, all right, when there is high demand, and when there is little to nothing to do, it scales back down. That is just the auto scale functionality. So you are not paying for resources that you are not using, and this is one of the very good things about cloud technologies in general. Why should we use Spark in Microsoft Fabric, or when should we use Spark in Microsoft Fabric? You want to run you want to use Python, you want to use R, you want to use Scala. This is one good way, or one good reason why you should use Spark in Microsoft Fabric when your data set is very big. I know that a lot of us are maybe familiar with Dataflow Gen 2. We're familiar with you're familiar with your Azure Data Factory. Why should we? What is the reason for you to go the Spark route when you have very big data? When we talk about big data, we're talking about terabyte, petabyte scale data. You're not going to appreciate all of this until you start dealing with 1 petabyte, 2 petabyte scale in data. This is when Spark becomes really, really useful. You want to do things programmatically. You want to do your data loading, data extraction. A lot of us are very familiar with code. And now the barrier is even getting reduced further. You don't have to even understand or learn Spark from beginning to end to use Spark right now. There are a lot of low-code approaches to use Spark, even within Microsoft Fabric. And we're going to be exploring some of them. So it's not that you have to, because a lot of people say, oh, I need to first go and learn Python. I need to first go and learn PySpark before I start using some of these things. There are low-code approaches to make some of these things work. You also want to do maybe any sort of machine learning or statistical analysis. These are very good reasons for you to use Spark. And you want to analyze text, you want to analyze images and the likes. These are times to use Spark. So finally, what are some of the different or That you can use Spark for. You can use for Spark streaming. You want to use structured streaming. You want to do machine learning, MLlib. You want to do graph processing, GraphX. These are very use cases. And then Spark SQL and data frame and data set. These are like different aspects. Now, Spark Core and the Spark SQL engine. So these are the different, you can use Spark with all of these different programming language. You can use Scala if you're comfortable with Scala, if you're comfortable with SQL, if you're comfortable with Python, Java, and R, all of these things you can use, or languages you can use with Spark. I think in Fabric, you're only limited to Scala, SQL, and Python. Am I correct? And R, yes. So I'm not sure Java is available in Fabric, right? So, but anyways, the world is consolidating. We don't have to go with different technology. So thank you. That is the end of my presentation today. Bye-bye. No, sorry. All right, so let's quickly get to do something. So Mr. Francis will help us drop so I'm trying to make this easy instead of creating, because I know that I'm not going to have a lot of time. So I'm just going to use one of Microsoft Learn Labs. So this is going to be shared in the group, and then we can follow along. And even if we don't finish, we can always continue this at our own pace at home. Today we are going to ingest data in Spark, or using Spark. We're going to be using sales order data is a CSV, some CSV files. We're going to walk through how to ingest the data, maybe clean it, do some little transformation, work with data frames, convert this into maybe package file, and then convert this into delta tables within, or delta table within Microsoft Fabric, and then use SQL or SQL to analyze that data. Are we good? Are we up to the challenge? Okay, so do we all have the link? The link has been shared? Okay, very good. So it's going to be code along. I don't know how we should do it. Maybe we should all, no, let me lead, and then if you want to do it along, you can do it. And if you want to do it when you are home, you can do it as well. So what are we going to do? We are going to create a workspace. I'm sure everyone can create a Fabric workspace here. So I'm not going to bother us with that. So let me do this. I'm going to create, I already have a workspace, so let me create another one. Let's follow me. I've created a workspace. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a lakehouse. All right? Again, there are no hard or fast route to how to do. You can create your notebook first and then connect it to a lakehouse. You can create the lakehouse first before connecting it to, so I'm going to click on new item, and I'm going to create a lakehouse. Okay. I'm going to call this my Fabric Saturday underscore LH. Increase lakehouse schema, why not? So create. Okay, so I have my lakehouse. We're following the instruction, don't forget. So the next thing I want to do, so I've created my lakehouse, and I've created my workspace, and I've created my lakehouse as well. All right. The next thing is I want to download these CSV files. All right. So you can open this link to download this. Is a zipped order file. Is an order zipped file. So navigate to this link. How many people are following along? Let's know. All right. So let's do that. So I want to go to this link, and I want to download this zipped file, and I want to extract the zip. Are we here? We've created our lakehouse, or if we have an existing lakehouse, use an existing lakehouse, an existing workspace. You've extracted, you've downloaded the zipped file.
So the next thing I'm going to do is I already have my zipped file extracted. I can show you this is what it looks like. Once you've extracted the data, this is what it looks like, 3 files. So what do I do next? And this is what the files look like uh, in Excel, in CSV, sorry. So you see 2019 file, this is what it looks like. So you have your order information, the date, the name, email address, and of course the transaction details. All right, so next I want to do is to upload my files. How do I do that? I click on the ellipsis by the file section. I go to upload, and I can either upload files or upload folder. In this case, I want to upload folder because all the files are within the folder anyways. I already did this operation before, so I'm going to delete this. So what do I do is to click on this, all right, navigate to Fabric Saturday, all right, and click on orders, and then I can upload my file. All right, so I'm going to click on upload. Okay, so upload the files. This is going to take a couple seconds.
Okay, so this is loading. Are we here? Okay, very good. So once this is up, let's see, while we are waiting for that, let's see what the next step is. So we are going to see, once this is done, this is what we are going to see. We'll see our 2019, 2020, and 2021 CSV files in here. And we are going to create a notebook next. Okay? So let's check this out. Our files are complete. They've uploaded. So let me close out on this. Now I have my orders folder here. I have a subfolder called orders, and I'm going to click on that to load the content. All right, so we see this is our lakehouse, and we've successfully uploaded our files. The next thing is we want to open a notebook. So we're going to see here, open notebook. Click on the drop down. Do we have an existing notebook? No. We want to start with a new notebook. Okay. I'm going to click on that. New notebook coming up. All right. So our new notebook is here. Because we went from lakehouse to notebook, this should automatically see our lakehouse as well. So this is the lakehouse we have in here. And you see, of course, welcome to your notebook. So I'm just going to call this our, so let's create, instead of a code, we're going to create a markdown. And this we are going to call ingestion. Okay. All right. So this we have. Now we want to create a new cell. So I'm going to create, I can either create a code cell or I can create a markdown cell. Okay. So we have our code here. Now I'm going to expand my lakehouse. I'm going to expand it to the file session. I'm going to expand the orders. Okay. Now if I click on the ellipses on my 2019 CSV, that's, of course, we are following the instruction now. So load data to Spark. All right. So you see, this is going to generate a nice, beautiful code for us to work with. Now, very simple. We're creating a data frame and we are reading files from CSV, all right? And we're setting our header, so we are saying that our CSV file has headers, the header is true, and this is what we are loading. We are loading files order 2019 CSV. Okay, very simple. If you want to know maybe other Spark syntax, if you are loading from maybe a blob storage, or you are loading from Azure Data Lake, or you are loading from SQL Server, anyway, all of these things have respective codes that we can easily translate. But this is very simple. We didn't have to write this. And again, I'm very careful to not focus too much on maybe writing the code, because I know that we have various or different levels of expertise when it comes to Spark or code or Python. And today's class is not to teach how to write ABC of Spark. It's to make use of it to achieve our result. Remember what we mentioned the last time. All right? So we're creating a data frame. We are ingesting our data and we are loading this. So I'm going to run this. And what I do is this is going to start my my Spark session. Okay? So usually this is going to take maybe about 6 seconds to load. We are using a starter pool. I forgot to mention that when I started. We are using a starter pool in Microsoft Fabric that is configured for us. You can create your own custom pool where you adjust your configuration as you like, but we're just working with this. Okay, so now we see we have loaded. This has created a data frame for us, and we have our table here. But now something is amiss. You would see that we set our header to true, but this doesn't look like it has headers. All right, this looks like we are using the first row as header. So we need to fix that. How do we fix that? Very simple. We're just going to change very small thing in the code. So I'm going to copy this. I'll create a new code down here. And I'm just going to change this true to false. All right? So what did I do? I simply changed that the header. I said the header, I had headers before, which was true. Now I changed it to false. So now you see, these are now be denoted by column 0, column 1, true, all the way to column 8. All right? Now, the next thing, of course, we want to do is that we need to set like proper data types for these columns, right? And then we need to give it like proper header name. So now the question is, I don't know a lot of Spark. How am I going to do this? All right? So very simple. I have a very simple way. Now let's follow the documentation first, and then I'll go through my shortcut on how to do this. So we created the data frame. We've ingested the data. We are here. We have set our headers to false. Now the next thing is we want to set the data types. All right, and we want to also give our columns a name. So I'm just going to copy this for now, and I'll paste it here. So what is this code doing? This is ingesting, or this is importing from a library called PySpark SQL types. And of course, we are setting column names for each of the columns, and we are setting the data types, and then we are reading the file and displaying the data frame. Now, I don't know Spark. How do I get here? I have a very simple way to do this, all right? So, again, our very beautiful friend, ChatGPT. So, I'm going to come here and say, look at this. These are the first 3 lines of my sales CSV file. They have no headers. I've loaded the file to Spark data frame. Now I need a PySpark code to set that should be name, to set the name and the data type for each column. Very simple. And I just copied from that CSV file. I just copied the first 3 lines and pasted it here. Okay? So let me run this guy and let's see what my result. I just want to generate the code that is going to, don't embarrass me. Okay. So no, this is free. This is free. No. This is free. So oh, okay. Okay. So let me say, I know this thing was going to disappoint me. So I'm just going to go to the code I ran before. So look, this is it. The same prompt. So I said, let's see. Yeah, so the same prompt. This is it. There are first 3 lines, and this is it. And guess what? This guy returned similar code to the one that I got from that documentation. He said you are going to from PySpark SQL types. I'm going to import all of this, and then he sets my other names, my table names, and then the data types for that. This is very similar. The only difference is, let me show you. This one is just ingesting, this one is importing all from that library. So it's importing star, while this is defining them one by one. Okay, so this is importing, defining them one by one. And of course, he's telling me, okay, so I'm going to say other schema, then struct type, and I'm going to set all my table or all my field names, which is exactly what this is doing. All right, all my field names. All right, and it's giving me the data types. Now, the only thing I need to change here is that there are some things that I need to change. For example, my order date is seeing it as string type. Maybe the way I copied so I can just change that to a date format. Then my unit price and line total, maybe change it to float. And again, I'm good. I'm trying to show you the baby step approach to learning or to working with Spark. All right, so you don't need to know a lot. If you need to get this done, you can get it done. Okay, so let's run this. So, and let's see what our results will be. So this is going to give me the names of each of the fields. So you can see the first column, sales order number, sales order line number, the order date, customer name, the email, item, quantity, and unit price. And I've set the data types for this as well. Are we still together? Have I lost anyone? If I've lost you, please let me know. Can we proceed? Okay. So we have this. So now what's the next thing that we need to do? All right, we created the data frame, we set the column types, the column names as well. All right. Now we want to do something. Remember when we started, we only loaded 2019 data, but in actual fact, we need the 3. We need to combine more than one CSV. We need 2019, 2020, 2021 file. Now we're just going to change a very small part of that code. The very first time we did this, if you check the last code we wrote, you will see here, you see 2019. Now we're just going to change that and put a wildcard there. After the files, the order folder, it's just saying a wildcard, just load all the files in, all the CSV files, even if they are 20, 30, 40, just replace that with a wildcard and run it. Let's see. Okay, so that's essentially what we are going to do next. So I'm just going to copy this and I'll load it here. Okay, so you see, the only difference is instead of loading 2019, we are replacing that with a wildcard and we are loading all 3 files, 2019, 2020, 2021. And if you see here, from the order date column, you already see that we have 2021 data. All right? So we're working with Spark already. It's not complicated, it's not difficult. Okay? And we're moving. All right? So what is the next thing? What can we do next? Now we want to explore our data. The next thing, if you load the data, you want to maybe select some columns, you want to aggregate, you want to filter, you want to sort, you want to create like very simple aggregation, or you want to clean that data. Spark can achieve all of that for you. So the next few steps, we want to select customer name and email from the data, from our data frame. And the code is very simple. We are saying customers, we are defining our data frame, and we are just selecting the customer name and the email. And we want to count the number of customers, and we want to count the number of distinct customers. Okay, so let's see. So copy this. And paste it here. And run it. So you see our counts, the results are here, the count of customers, the distinct count of customers, and then we are displaying. You see, the reason why this is here is that we printed customer and customer distinct count. That's why this results, and then we are displaying the customer name and the email. Okay, very simple, straightforward, not complicated at all. So let's move on. So there are other activity that we can do. I'm just going to run through some of these things. I've done them before. So for the interest of time, or maybe let's just continue. When I know it's time to stop, I'm just going to stop. All right. So now so I've done that. I've done my counts, my customer counts and the likes. The next thing I want to do an aggregate, because these are like simple things we do already in SQL or in Power BI and the likes. You want to aggregate by certain columns. You want to aggregate item. You want to aggregate the quantity by your item, and the code for that is df select. You select the item name, select quantity, and you are grouping the item. You are grouping by item, and you are doing a sum. Again, one of the very easy way to do this is if you are coming from a SQL background, for example, and you already know your maybe select item, select sum, quantity, and group by item. You copy that SQL code, paste it in whatever LLM you're using, and say just translate this into a Spark code for me. Very simple. These are like ways to, again, the job to be done. You already know, you're coming from one background, you've learned one tool or one solution, you want to translate this knowledge to a second tool. Very easy. This is similar again. If you're very familiar with SQL, even if it's Excel you're coming from, all right, this is something you can easily translate. So I'm just going to do a group by. So we want to aggregate, we want to count, want to sum our quantity by item. So I'm going to create a new code cell. If you copy the code, let me just say something. If you copy this and you see that there is a space, remember you need to take it out. Python does not allow you to add unnecessary indentation. So I'm just going to do Shift Tab to take everything back to the left. And I'll run this. And you will see that with this, I'm able to create my total sum of quantity and group this by item. Aggregate, group by functions we can do. I'm just going to walk through this one. So we can add another code cell. Say we want to do, we want to group our data by the year. Okay, so let me just do this. We want to count for each of the cells, for each of our year, our records. We want to count the number of So we're trying to aggregate, again, another aggregate and group by function. For our year 2019, 2020, 2021, we are counting the number of records for each of these. And we are extracting the year from other dates. Again, these are very familiar concepts. In here, we are importing a library. All right, and then we are using this to run other dates. We are grouping this by year, all right, and we're doing a count of all the records, okay, and this of course is our count. So let's move on past all of this. We've done some aggregate functions, we've done some group by function, we've done some filter functions. The next thing is let's look at how to run, how to load this into our package files and how to load this into our Delta table for us to use it in Microsoft Fabric. So we're rounding up. So I'm just going to skip a lot of this. So I'm going to skip transform. Okay, so let's do this. So we want to transform data, and when we transform this our data, we want to save our transform data into package files. All right. We want to use, and package files, of course, are going to be used for maybe more processing or further processing down the line. Okay. So with our Spark, oops. So with our Spark, we can do this. I'm going to show the result. Sorry. So here, what are we doing? We are creating, so we are creating year, month, columns. We are extracting first name and last name from, we are extracting first name and last name field from customer names, all right? And we are also filtering sales order number. We are reordering our columns, our sales order number, our sales order line number, order date, the year, the month, and then the first name and the last name. So we are doing, again, very similar operations that we will do. Sorting operation, filtering operation, group by operation, all of these things we're familiar with them. These are very simple things we do in our day-to-day task as data analysts, data engineers, and the likes. And we're just translating all of this into Spark code, all right? So creating first name, extracting first name and last name from customer name, and then reordering the columns, okay? And that is essentially what we are doing. So we want to now save this into a, we want to save this as package files. We've been working with CSV files all along. So let's save this, our results. Let's save it as package files. Okay? So we are saving the transform data frame, and we are writing. Remember, the first operation we did when we started was to read from our CSV file. These are simple operations we do. So now we are writing this data as package files, and we are saving it in this file path, filed transform data orders. All right. And once this is done, we want to print that this transform data has been saved, and we are using the overwrite function, because even if it exists, we want to overwrite whatever is there. So now let's refresh this. So I'm going to refresh my files folder. Now we see we now have the transform data as package files. So you see we have 3 new package files that have been created for this, okay? And these have been created as package files. So these are operations. We've done the read operation, we've done write, we've filtered, we've aggregated, and we're doing all. Now let's do the final one. Let's load this into a proper Delta table. Okay, so I'm going to skip this. I'm going to skip this. Let me see how much data I can skip. So this is just telling us I can also read from that package file as well. I want to skip this. Let me see how I can quickly load this into a proper table. Yes, so now I'm going to copy this. Let's see if I can skip that part. Okay, so this is the final operation we are doing. we've written our data frame, we've written it into Parquet files. The final one is we want to write this into proper Delta table so that we can use SQL or we can do like other transformation or connect it to our Power BI for reporting or do maybe other transformation and aggregation as we proceed. So what we're doing is we are creating a new table called sales orders, right? Remember on our table, before I do, okay, yeah, in our tables, we don't have any table in there from our table view. So we're going to create a new table, a new Delta table called sales orders, and we are going to write our data into that, all right? So I've run this. This is successful. So I'm going to refresh my lakehouse now. Okay. And I'm going to expand my DBO schema. And ladies and gentlemen, if you see here, you see that I now have my sales order table as a table in my lakehouse. Let's quickly go back here to check it. So I'm just going to open my lakehouse, and I'm going to open the lakehouse, which is the Fabric Saturday lakehouse that I created, and I'm expecting to see my sales order table that I can then use for any other thing I want to do from here. So this is my sales order table, my Delta table in Microsoft Fabric Lakehouse. This is loading. So what we're able to do today, we're able to take CSV files. We, of course, read using Spark. We converted this into a data frame. We cleaned it, we analyzed it, we selected columns, we grouped by, we did some filtering, we did some aggregation, we loaded it back into Parquet files, we read it from Parquet, and then we loaded it into Delta table. This is the part where this is supposed to show. Okay, yeah, voila. So ladies and gentlemen, you see, we've been able to do this. So from here, you can then do any other thing, connect it to Power BI, maybe write SQL on this, and do any of those other things. This is just one operation working with CSV file. This could be anything. You can read data from blobs, or you can read data from AWS, S3 bucket, you can read data from your Google Cloud platform, anywhere, all right? And then you're able to do this operation using Spark. Again, the summary of what we have learned today is Spark is very useful when we are working with big data. All right, it creates partitions and on our data, and it distributes all of this into multiple nodes and gives us very fast lightning speed performance for our core data analytics. And Spark is what is powering the data science and the data engineering. We didn't even get into machine learning at all today because, of course, we can't do that. But at least with what we have learned so far, I hope that you'll be able to build on this. You can use the labs to go through this at your own comfortable time or leisure time, and you can start to learn. There are a lot of documentation, of course, online on how you can learn Spark and start making use of Spark from scratch. I also want to emphasize the low code, no code approach to this. Don't let trying to learn that be a barrier. If you already know SQL, you already know, even if it's DAX, all right? Some of these things we've written in DAX, you have LLMs now that can translate from one language to the other. I can translate from DAX to Spark SQL and so on to PySpark and use it for your operation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patai, for such a very wonderful and educative session. And that's Spark on Microsoft Fabric.
All right, so can we please give a big hand? A big hand to our speakers. Do you know how much money they've lost by coming here to talk? You know, they're paid by the hour in dollars. These two people. They didn't tell you, right? They're paid by the hour in dollars. I don't know how much we owe you right now. You just say thank you and be praying for them, right? Yeah, but this is wonderful. Thank you so, so much. And please, it would be nice to speak up. If you really don't understand certain things, you can kind of take it down a notch. Look how I learn, right? I don't really care about anybody in the room. I will ask my questions, as stupid as it is, and I will learn, right? Because there are many other people that want to ask, but they're not asking. So please, when you are learning, be very, very, very selfish. Okay? No matter here, whether here or anywhere you're learning, be extremely selfish. It's very important. So you're there, you're talking even in university, I don't understand it, you talk. I've done that once in my university. I schooled in Kano. Who's from Kano? Or who schooled up north here? Oh, good, good. Where did you school? Mina. Okay, great. So I mean, I shouldn't have done this. But anyway, I had leverage. So my lecturer was talking some funny stuff on management, accounting. The whole class was full. Everybody was quiet. Then I put my hand up. I said, sorry, sir, this is not correct. Lecturer, university. Everyone was quiet. I said, see, I didn't learn. I even went worse. I said, please, can you give me 5 minutes to prove to you why you're wrong? Lecturer. The guy was too shocked. He agreed. So I went down and I showed him why he was wrong. Now, obviously, if I didn't have leverage, he would have done something to me. My leverage was I was a class rep. He sells handouts and all these things. I used to carry his handouts and sell and give him money. So I guess he weighed it. This stupid boy, but but you need to be selfish. If you don't understand something, just say it. Forget what everybody else is thinking. You will learn, and you will learn faster, right? So I think we'd like to say a big thank you again to our speakers. Excellent work. You can see we're recording stuff. What we're trying to do is record it and put it. Go to Google right now and type Microsoft Fabric Nigeria. Can you do that? Those are not part of the group. Microsoft Fabric Nigeria. And you see, you join the group. You join the user group, you're part of the group now. And then there's also other groups. So if you don't like that, you can join that. That's the ticket to enter here. And then you can join the WhatsApp group. Which other groups do we have? So the WhatsApp group. Yeah. Yeah, so but you need to join that Microsoft one because so you should understand how these big companies work so that you can take advantage for yourselves, train yourselves and stuff. Let me give you one last thing in AI. What you saw here, every single thing you saw here is documented somewhere, right? It's documented somewhere. So here's what you should do. Go to OpenAI or whatever AI you have, create a custom GPT, which is free. Go to all the Microsoft sites, let's say for Fabric, and download all the PDFs. Download all the PDFs. You're going to have about 10, I've done it about 13,000 pages. Download all the PDFs, load it into your custom GPT, do a detailed prompt to tell it not to go outside that PDF. That should be the first port of call that I should go to. Do a detailed prompt. Then as you're building, it's now going straight there and is referencing every single thing precisely. So you don't need to travel to send you one video from somebody somewhere. No, it's focused on the documentation, which is super detailed. So I've done that for Fabric. I've done that for Power BI. Try and do that. It's something that will be pretty cool. And then if you do publish it as a public GPT, maybe next session we're here, you can demo your GPT to us so we can start using it. All right?
So you're building agents with Copilot Studio.
You can do that as well, yeah. But you pay, right? We don't have money. Well, anyway, so thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you next month. Well done, well done.